We extend you a very warm welcome and we look forward to the globe is yours, the world is yours, and we all are yours.
Good evening, Dr. Sharma. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, respected dignitaries, guests, and viewers. Yes, we're all digital, unfortunately, and you are making me very, very homesick and a little bit jealous because I have never gone to North India. I am only 6 weeks old in New Delhi. So when you speak of tourism, oh, please don't get me started on being jealous. I haven't seen anything other than, unfortunately, a little bit of New Delhi because of this. But once everything comes back to normal, hopefully I can. But at the offset, I'm very pleased to be here at the ICSI's North India Pravasi Divas. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And to address this very dynamic crowd. I mean, from the morning, Dr. Sharma, I don't understand how, I don't know what kind of tea you're drinking because you started at 10 o'clock and oh my goodness, I can't even catch up after 1 hour. So hats off to you. And so together with this very dynamic crowd on the issue of school education and skills, and to touch upon the topic of the relevance of education, as Dr. Mohan was just saying, the 4 pillars of what it means to have the future of education and to make it relevant. So again, thank you very much, Dr. Sharma and the International Chamber for Service Industry for inviting me to participate at this event. I want to start by going back in time. In 2005, so 17 years ago, UNESCO, through its Associated Schools Project Network, asked students their views and proposals and aspirations on what quality education means to them. So the questionnaire was given to young people aged 12 to 18, and they answered the question on what type of education they wanted and they needed in order to meet more effectively the challenges facing them now, at that time, and in the near future. Their messages were strong and clear. Students care and are concerned about what is happening or not happening in the classroom. They share their perceptions of their teachers and what they expect from them. They're keen to enjoy equitable access to information and communication technologies, including artificial intelligence, as we call it now. And they don't want to be just limited to learning in the classroom. They want to go out in the community. They want to learn by doing. They want to develop contacts with the wider world. And they also want to preserve the natural landscapes that they call playgrounds. In essence, they are more than ready to take up the challenge of making the world a better place and to become more active and responsible citizens of the world. Students care about their well-being as well as those around them and in the planet that we all share. Now, the question becomes, how do you do that? Much of the thinking around the relevance of education is concerned about what happens at the macro level, which sometimes can come at a cost of what happens at the micro level. Perhaps not enough attention is being given to what actually works, what doesn't work in schools today. How much real dialogue goes on between the decision makers at one end of the spectrum and the teachers and the students at the other end of the education spectrum? And even if agreement is reached, and if that level of quality education is achieved, how do we make sure that it is sustained and resilient to external shocks, such as the pandemic that we're facing all today, financial meltdowns, or bigger yet, the environmental crisis? This leads me to the importance of teachers in this entire equation. We've been talking about quality education, youth, teachers. Teachers have been at the forefront of ensuring that education continues throughout the pandemic. And now more than ever, society as a whole is indebted to teachers and educators. Their dedication, resourcefulness, and creativity have opened every door to support students academically and emotionally through distance and hybrid learning, while sometimes they themselves are often managing technologies they've never had experience or familiarity with ever before. Across the globe, teachers have gone to great lengths to help students navigate the world of distance learning, often without sufficient guidance, training, support, or resources. They have leveraged mobile phones and networks, television, radio, print materials, and even their strong relationships with communities and families to ensure the continuity of learning for the most marginalized and those without connectivity. So, if there were ever fears that technology could ever replace a human being teacher, then this crisis has certainly demonstrated that the human dimension of learning has the upper hand. Teachers are the most powerful influence on learning, and the paramount role of teachers must be recognized and enhanced. So, at this point, I want to reiterate what most of us, and certainly the distinguished academicians and experts in this panel and throughout your conference have already known from living through the pandemic, and that is, as the landscape of learning shifts, teachers will need continuing guidance and training on open and distance learning solutions. This is not only about learning platforms and resources, but about how to use them effectively to ensure that students learn and to remediate the learning losses that we have already experienced and seen in such a devastating way. To navigate these changing and challenging times, teachers themselves need to multiply collaborative learning experiences. And for this, they need adequate infrastructure and connectivity. We need to trust teachers, listen to them, invest in them and their leadership. Their commitment, knowledge, and creativity hold the keys to educational transformation. Another crucial aspect of quality learning and in building the world that we want is to involve all partners and stakeholders and to have development, prosperity, safety, and justice for all. Here's where I'd like to echo the previous speakers who have been advocating for girls and women's rights and gender equality. Gender equality and women's empowerment are crucial for a broad array of development goals and for ensuring their own resilience, the resilience of their communities, and for more sustainable and lasting peace. Yet, we're all too aware of the disparity and disadvantages facing girls and women, especially those from vulnerable groups. This is particularly true for rural women and girls who, despite making key contributions to food production, playing vital roles in the diversification of rural livelihoods, and making social systems more efficient, resilient, and climate smart. This is often compounded by other forms of oppression and marginalization, which can vary by location and change over time and context. At the same time, gender disadvantage can also be experienced by boys and men, and that gender equality equally involves the participation of males, relationships, and power dynamics. Gender inequality affects us all, and therefore achieving gender equality must involve us all. Gender equality remains a core principle and an institutional priority for UNESCO, my organization. And the education sector promotes gender equality in and through education through gender-specific programming and gender mainstreaming in curricula, for example. UNESCO intends to invest in this principle by supporting national policies, legislation, and plans to advance gender equality in and through education, by mitigating gender-based violence through curricula and teachers, gender transformative programming accompanied by internal capacity reinforcement, and by gender-responsive STEM education and digital skills for girls that's supported by evidence, data, and research. As the report from the International Commission on the Future of Education entitled Reimagining Our Futures Together, we need a new social contract for education, one that calls for global solidarity and international cooperation in support of education as a common good and as a human right that's premised on more just and equitable cooperation among state and non-state actors. It's therefore essential that everyone be able to participate in building the futures of education. Children, youths, parents, teachers, researchers, activists, employers, cultural and religious leaders, and social media influencers like yourself, Dr. Sharma. We need partnership. We need the full power of all stakeholders, young and old. It seems that the young children's responses in 2005 is as powerful then as it is now. Education should be relevant and useful for all. And I am encouraged to see that ICSI has gathered partners from all over sectors, from all over the world, who are 4 o'clock in the morning, dedicated to discuss what each of one of us can do and what we can do together to make it happen. I hope that the viewers have taken much from today's discussions and for the rest of the other days coming, and will themselves be able to think and contribute towards what they feel is relevant education. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thanks a lot. Very kind of you.